Morning, Abdul. Now, sometimes you're here, sometimes you're not here, you disappear. Well, I actually know you have, stuff to do with print, being a deputy.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
It's not easy juggling between the print and
I
the screen, so
understand.
it's not that easy. And of course, also trying to go out and get for our viewers and readers what is new in the town, and that's sometimes what takes away.
Well, just know that
from
anytime you're not around, we miss you a lot here.
Oh, that's
Yes.
beautiful to
Yeah.
hear.
But aside that, the primaries, for PDP primaries actually has
Oh,
come
yeah.
and gone. We'll talk about that in detail,
Exactly.
later. But then, a lot of things still happening, in the country. I don't know, is the fuel scarcity? I know we're talking about fuel
scarcity has
scarcity.
become, yeah, well, you talk about it every day, but of course, I think it is in the lips of every Nigerian,
Yes.
because it's something that has been like the, there is this, what's this called in Yoruba culture, the child coming and going. Abiku, it has become like Abiku, coming and going.
I think this time around, Nigerians are used to it because no one actually complained without the fuels. In fact, no one is even queuing up to
yeah, that's true. And as you said, I was away, on a day like this last week, and I traveled to Kano, and I saw that people have normalized purchasing fuel above the fuel official pump price.
And from black marketers
as
well.
From black marketers. No, even filling station opening and boldly writing maybe 220 and all that. So
no,
really
but most filling stations in Abuja don't even open.
Yes, they don't. And maybe that's why for those who could improvise, like maybe the ones I saw in Kano, they now jack up the price. And maybe the ones in Abuja is because they fear that the officials may not allow them to sell.
Exactly,
but
it's possible.
The realities are just very much concerning.
Then, aside the fuel, the power issue is another Abiku as well. It's I don't know, it's crazy.
Yeah, but
also,
a lot of
people
all this hardship and the power thing and fuel. Some Nigerians really smiled to the banks last week, talking of the delegates. And
the delegates.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Well, we'll discuss about that maybe later in the show as we discuss the PDP primaries.
All right, so let's move on to the highlights at this hour. Gunmen kill ex-NPC commissioner, abduct his daughters.
Zamfara locates NYSC orientation camp to Gusau over insecurity.
Italy-based Nigerian excretes 95 pellets of heroin at Abuja airport. And with that, we'll move on to the main details. Operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency have arrested a 36-year-old Nigerian based in Italy, Nwakama Michael Uche, at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, for ingesting 95 pellets of heroin. Nwakama, who hails from Arodizuogo village, Idiato local government area of Imo State, was nabbed while trying to board Air France airline en route Abuja, Paris, Milan, Italy on Sunday, 15th May. Spokesman of the NDLEA, Femi Babafemi, said on Sunday in Abuja that the suspect was thereafter kept under observation, during which he excreted 95 pellets of heroin. Uche claimed he came to see his parents in Nigeria after 12 years in Italy and to complete his father's traditional marriage rites.
Gunmen have killed a former commissioner of National Population Commission, NPC, Zakari Umaru Kigbu, in Nasarawa State, and abducted 2 of his daughters. Daily Trust learned that the incident occurred in the early hours of Sunday at Umar Kigbu's residence in Azuba Bashai, Lafia local government area of Nasarawa State. Confirming the incident, the Nasarawa Police Public Relations Officer, ASP Rahman Nansel, said the command got a distress call at 12:20 a.m. on Sunday. According to him, investigation is going on to ascertain the circumstances surrounding the incident. Nansel also confirmed that 2 of the deceased daughters were kidnapped until his mother, Umar Kigbu, was a lecturer at the Department of Mass Communication, Isa Mustafa Agwai Polytechnic, Lafia. He was the former NPC Federal Commissioner covering Nasarawa State.
All right, the Zamfara state government has temporarily relocated the National Youth Service Corps Orientation Camp from Safia local government area to Gusau, the state capital, over rising insecurity. The state deputy governor, Senator Hassan Mohammed Gusau, disclosed this while receiving the Director General of the NYSC, Brigadier General M.K. Fada. The deputy governor gave a brief account of the situation, that security situation in the state, informing the Director General that the situation is gradually improving as relative peace is being restored while people are going on with their normal businesses. The deputy governor further explained that the state government reasoned with the NYSC authority for suspending the orientation camp activities in the state, sequel to the then escalated security challenges. And with that, we wrap up the news highlights at this hour. All right, moving on. 7 years ago, on May 29, 2015, President Muhammadu Buhari was sworn in to govern the country, which was regarded then as the largest economy in Africa. He was elected by Nigerians based on his promises to fix the economy, fight corruption, and secure the nation. Years down the line, Kehinde Amodu looks at how well he has kept these promises. The report.
I, Muhammadu Buhari.
President Buhari's most notable quote when he took the oath of office on May 29, 2015, was that he was for everybody and for nobody. It was supposed to portray the new president as an impartial person who would treat all Nigerians equally. Has he kept his word to be impartial?
In so many areas and so many spheres, appointments into positions of responsibility, positions of authority, and so forth and so on, are carried out without the federal character, adherence to federal character principle.
However, one thing Nigerians agree on, despite the statistics churned out by government, is that the economy has nosedived, as indicated by constantly spiraling inflation and ever-rising cost of living.
The exchange rate is getting worse every day. The dollar is now 607 to 608. From what he inherited as 198 to a dollar, and so it becomes very frightening as to where our economy is heading to.
It has also been hard to keep the promise to secure the nation.
The heat had become unbearable for them in the Northeast. Northeast terrorism had declined, acknowledged internationally, by more than 90%. So it's not surprising that a few had splintered and had found their way into safer areas of the country. The thing to say is that the military, the defense establishment in the country is getting weapons. They have re-strategized, and they have repositioned troops and leaderships in some of these areas, and we're hoping that the results will begin to show in the coming days and weeks.
Apart from rhetorics, apart from some empty promises, meeting of service chiefs, who's the president's salutary moves and so on and so forth, we have not seen something decisive towards tackling this problem. So as far as I'm concerned, it is the will, the political will, that is simply not there.
But perhaps most vilified is the administration's fight against corruption, which sometimes looks lackluster and fraught with inconsistencies. And what is the logic behind pardoning ex-governors who have been tried and found guilty of corruption?
Government is supposed to fight against corruption, and then it is now setting those people who are high-profile personalities that are being convicted for corruption and is setting them free. It means that there is no genuine and sincere methods of fighting corruption. The actual idea of fighting corruption was only for the attention of the media and for the attention of the society, which has been done. A lot of media trials have gone, but the courts have not been able to convict most of those people who have been charged to court.
The moral, the tone has been changed. Even if we have not eliminated corruption 100%, it is unlikely that anybody can tell you that they have eliminated corruption by 100%. But the fact that there is a sense today in the country that there is right, there is wrong, and that corruption is wrong, it is not right. It's an achievement, because in the past, people will not make any distinction between right or wrong.
However, a statement released on Saturday by the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Femi Adesina, described those looking at the Buhari presidency from the angle of challenges alone as revisionists. Mr. Adesina also released a fact sheet indicating the administration's achievements in developing roads, bridges, rail, aviation, and seaports. The president's spokesman said a lot more would still be done in the last 12 months in the life of the administration. Kehinde Amodu, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Well, while the administration would actually say they have a lot of achievements, a lot of people would actually, say otherwise. I actually know of someone who has actually been, from beginning of this year, has actually been counting down to, this administration leaving office every day. Every day. Most people say, they're tired, the suffering is too much. It's been 8 years of, instead of 8 years of progress, it's actually been 8 years of, digression. Nothing is working. Lights, talking about power, talk about fuel, talking about education, talk about, almost every sector in Nigeria.
Well, the government, as you said, will say otherwise, because as we've seen the spokesperson of the president and Garba Shehu insisting that there are
achievements.
But actually, for me, the first realization that it's already 7 years, of course, is as I understand, the agitations or the urge by some Nigerians to see the end of this administration, but also in another blink, if you look at it, it's just like today that the Buhari government came in with a lot of hope. You remember 2015,
it's not just like today. It doesn't feel like today.
Well, if you reflect, it feels
like,
that way. But also,
like a really long time ago. Yeah.
For some people, it feels like a long time because of all the issues you mentioned. Of course, maybe one can say that the government had achieved some results in terms of maybe, for example, the Northeast security. We can't deny that. Okay. But the fact that this insecurity in the Northwest now, it has
spread
actually
all through the North
rubbished whatever has been achieved in the Northeast, actually. And then, of course, the biting economy. The economy is seriously biting.
Would you call it biting or even chopping, or mostly swallowing?
It's seriously, it's a serious issue. And then, but I think for me, and for many Nigerians also, the one major issue is there is a sense in which people feel the presence of a government. Like that somebody is always there for them, is in charge, is concerned beyond the statements about them, and
ready to act.
Yes, and people, remember the Obasanjo presidency with nostalgia, that, okay, when there was the Shagamu crisis, he was there. When there was the bomb blast in Ikeja, he was there. You understand things like that.
Definitely.
And then now you rarely see the president, maybe at the airport, traveling.
Traveling out of the country.
It's been really, the Buhari presidency will be remembered for so many things, and maybe both positive and negative, because also, as I said, there's nobody or nothing without positivities, and one of them for me is also the infrastructure, because there are a lot of roads and other infrastructures that have been, worked on by the current administration in spite of their failings in many other areas, and also, most especially because of the way Nigerians expected that this government would be like a change maker, it would be like a new
expectations.
Expectations, exactly.
And I think they're actually scared, of voting for the wrong administration yet again. So hopefully we will make the right choice this time around.
Well, we hope so. We hope so. Yeah.
All right, moving on to more reports. The anti-vandal squad of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps Rivers State Command has uncovered a residential building that doubles as a dump site for the storage of locally and illegally refined automotive gas oil. The discovery, according to the command, is part of activities geared towards checkmating the excesses of oil thieves and bunkerers, as well as ensuring that critical national assets in the state are safe from economic sabotage. The report.
Addressing newsmen at the scene of the crime, the Rivers State NSCDC Commandant Abu Tamwal, who was represented by the head of the anti-vandal squad, Deputy Commandant Joachim Okafor, said the discovery followed sustained intelligence that a particular building along a notable university in Port Harcourt is being used as a loading point of illegally refined AGO. Okafor said the surveillance team of the anti-vandal squad swung into action to effect the arrest of those carrying out the act, which amounts to economic sabotage.
I eventually ordered my men to advance into the compound and will later confirm that the compound is being used as a loading point of this illegally refined automotive gas oil, popularly known as AGO.
The Deputy Commandant said during the arrest, the team also identified a local jetty near the scene of the crime where illegally refined AGO is being loaded for onward transmission to would-be buyers.
A black Lexus 330 saloon car with number plate Bayelsa GBB 52EA. A Toyota Avalon gold color with registration number Livers FH 730 PHC, laden with some cellophane bags of illegally refined AGO, a boat engine, and several bags of AGO stored in cellophane bags scattered within the premises, as you can see.
He said the command will approach the court with requisite jurisdiction to make necessary application for the forfeiture of the petroleum products, mode of conveyance, and the residential apartment, since it contravenes the provisions of the Miscellaneous Offences Act 2004 laws of the Federation.
When it comes to Rivers State, you find the Civil Defense Corps doing a lot, especially when it comes to tackling oil bunkering. But, you know, in other states, I don't know. I don't know when last I actually saw a civil defense, you know, operative. Yeah. Operative. I don't know when last I saw them. They used to be everywhere back then, you know, and right now they're almost nowhere in the north.
Yeah, I think it's like maybe they are losing their steam, especially, you know, sometimes, as you said back then, when something is new, when people are newly involved, they, you know, try to justify their existence, but maybe with time they relapse, and maybe that's what's happening. And also, a lot of them have been somehow subsumed into BIP work. I mean, providing security
to the elites.
To the elites. And actually, that is, I think, the original concept of the civil defense was to relieve police from VIP security. That is all these all these you know, guard duties and all that, so that police will face their own primary responsibility of safeguarding everybody, peace and security, ensuring peace and security. But then I think the police, because, you know, it is sweet to be with big men, and it's like the police doesn't want to give way. So all of them now, you find one big man having 3 policemen, 5 NSCDC.
But even the big men, even the elites, do they trust the NSCDC?
Yeah, you know, that's one of the things.
Exactly.
Exactly. And from the beginning, a lot of them felt maybe it's like inferior if you give me, if you withdraw police.
They're more comfortable with the policemen than, you know, the NSCDC.
But the NSCDC people are also armed. So
right now, yes.
I think just because
are they as highly trained as the police as well?
I think basically they are. It's just, I think, as I said, is one, the issue of perception. People feel like they are inferior. And then secondly, also the fact that the police authorities have, up to this moment, unable to stamp themselves to, you know, withdraw their personnel from VIP security. And one thing that is really funny is that almost every IGP that comes, at least in my memory, in the last maybe 15 years, will say,
we are going
we'll
to
remove,
withdraw,
we'll draw,
from personnel,
but
work.
they never made that statement real. You know, they just make that statement and it goes. So had it been they have the political will, you know, to withdraw all policemen from VIP securities and allow these NSCDC people, it would have been better for everybody. Because now almost half of policemen, you know.
Some would actually say the Civil Defense Corps meant to, you know, see to the security and the needs of the masses, the Nigerian masses.
Yes, and
protection of their
I think they also keep reinventing. For example, when they couldn't have their way into VIP security, they now started like what the Rivers Command is doing commendably, you know, like doing infrastructure security.
Which is commendable.
Which is also commendable, you know, like all these oil bunkering, vandals attacking electric lines and all that. So those things are also commendable. That is what they are basically doing now. But the original concept is relieve police from VIP security, let them face crime, and let NSCDC do it. And that was the concept also that led to the formation of the NSO, which is now the DSS, you know, to have a unit that is in charge of VIP security, which is important, and let the police do the policing work. But up to now, we keep, you know, nobody wants to let go.
You have a lot of, a lot of them doing or duplicating.
That is it.
Duplicating.
You go to a place and you see NSCDC is there, DSS is there, police is there.
They're all working together
yes,
in unity. All right, so moving on, two political gladiators in Gombe State, Governor Ino Ayahaya and Senator Enjuma Goje, have settled their political disputes with which created division among members of the All Progressives Congress in the state. Now, Senator Goje, who won APC ticket for the Gombe Central Senatorial District, said the reconciliation has come to stay. The report.
This is a historic moment for Governor Inwa and his former boss, ex-Governor Enjuma Goje, as they come together after a dispute that lasted for almost a year. The political tension triggered resignation of Goje's daughter, who was appointed by Governor Yahya as Environment Commissioner, but Senator Goje said they have now reconciled.
I also wish to particularly thank the leadership of our great party, the national leadership of our great party, the APC, under His Excellency, distinguished Senator Abdullahi Adamu Durakin Kefi. He has worked tirelessly with the governor to ensure that the APC Gombe State is fully reconciled. And I'm confirming to you that we are fully reconciled.
Governor Yahya said he is very excited to reconnect with his former boss.
Ranar farin ciki, wannan tana ɗaya daga cikin ranakun da na fi farin ciki tun da Allah ya ɗora ni akan karagar mulki a jihar.
This is the most exciting day for me as the governor. In the past 3 days, no one think we will be together. Hypocrites have been fueling the crisis, but we thank Allah for making it possible to reconcile. Before this reconciliation between Governor Yahya and Senator Goje, there were insinuations that Goje may defect to the People's Democratic Party (PDP), a report that he repeatedly denied. From Gombe, Ibrahim Ismail reporting for Trust TV.
All right, with that, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, it'll be time for the newspaper review.
When a situation where you find that a person look at the not necessarily tribal or regional.
Daily, we bring you updates around politics.
People like you who are very young, you have no future. Anybody now who is 30 years, if what is happening today continues, by the time you are 60, you will have no country.
The DPO of a particular unit does not have to wait until the commissioner tells him what to do within his jurisdiction.
We have political parties on the ground. Some of them have been there for years. But they themselves, in their own sober moments, they know that this country is not the one they're expecting to run.
Policy and governance.
Are you saying the NBS is lying?
I'm saying to you very clearly that the NBS has a serious problem with accurate data till today.
The 5th Assembly, as well as the 7th Assembly, their own attempt were unproductive.
Emergence of the Taliban has simply emboldened terror groups globally.
There is a lot of attention with regards to security developments in Nigeria.
On Daily Politics, we interrogate issues, holding the actors to account, bearing in mind all the sides.
We heard that in some places now, people have to go and pay tax, not to the local government, not to the state, but to criminals.
Nobody can come to your house and kidnap you without information.
If this country is bleeding, it is bleeding because we have failed to educate our young.
When a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
I have said that.
All right, welcome back. It is now time for us to review the newspapers, national dailies, and we will be starting with Daily Trust newspaper today, the front page of Daily Trust. And we have the lead story here that talks about the 2023 presidency. APC weighs options as Atiku shops for running mate. We have writers that talk about Southwest chieftains warning against Jonathan's candidature. Ex-VP's camp considers Okowa Udom. PDP elders make case for Wike. You can find details of this story on page 5. And you have a pictorial of APC, those running for APC presidential election. They're talking about Oshibajo, Lawal, Tinubu, Jonathan, and Amechi. All right, so we'll move on to more stories. And we have at the top of the page, you have PDP primary, factors that worked in Atiku's favor. Details on page 3. EFCC arrests Yari over Accountant General's 80 billion naira fraud on page 4. We also have more stories right below the pictorial there. After many years at NAS, Ekwere Madu, manager, Dogara, others leave. Italy-based Nigerian excretes 95 pellets of heroin at Abuja airport. Details on page 24. After losing presidential bid, Bauchi governor moves to reclaim governorship ticket. We also have NCDC confirms 66 suspected cases of monkeypox and 1 death. Details on page 4. And these are some of the stories on the front page of Daily Trust newspaper.
We move on to the Nation newspaper this morning, where the lead story says Presidency Buhari not part of plot to draft Jonathan interests. It has a rider that says ex-president not qualified to be our standard bearer, says NWC member. On top of the page, EFCC uncovers another 90 billion fraud against Accountant General. Just by the right of that story, it's a political story in the fallout of the weekend's primaries of the People's Democratic Party. It says how Atiku struck last-minute deal with Tambuwal to win ticket. On the very top, 8 children for release to train terrorists, respite for captives. Primaries, 42 senators won't return, number likely to rise. Methodist prelate bishop kidnapped in Abia. Jimo Ibrahim, Obiano's wife, Bagudu, win Senate tickets. Still with the Nation newspaper, on the red strip in the middle, it says Pope names Nigerian Opaleke others as cardinals. It also carries the story that says suspect excretes 86 pellets, heroin pellets. These and many other stories will be in today's The Nation newspaper.
All right, so we'll move on to more newspapers. We'll move on to News Direct, Nigerian News Direct, and we have a story. The lead story talks about 2023 presidency. Ohanese's chieftain, Southern Middle Belt leaders reject Atiku's emergence, call for rejection of Northern presidential candidates. And then at the top of the page, Osun 2022, Oyetola cautions opposition parties against violence. We also have AFDB will continue to implement impactful, life-transforming projects in Africa, says Adesina. On Osun APC primaries, Ibiemi, Makinde, other reps, aspirants, petition appeal panel. And then just below the page, we have Dangote Refinery to expose Nigeria's downstream, midstream sectors to international markets. Robbers attack 2 Nigerian News Direct staff in Ijoko. APC primaries, Abiodun promises to compensate those who lost party tickets. And also Forex inflow, CBN tasks banks to support indigenous companies. These are some of the stories on Nigerian News Direct.
Moving on to the Punch this morning, it has the lead story that says Atiku's candidacy, pro-zoning forces angry, slam PDP, Tambuwal. The story has riders. One says Tambuwal's withdrawal dubious, PDP's primary inequitable, says Pandeb. Others. Delegates' inducement with money forced Tambuwal to step down, according to the governor's aide. This is the lead story for the Punch newspaper. Looking up on other stories at the top of the page, banks tighten Forex access as the reserves hit 7-month low. Below that, EFCC arrests Yari, alleges ex-governor got 22 billion largesse from Accountant General. This is a story on page 22 of the Punch. Then strike. We have resumed talks with FG, says Asu Sasano. A story on page 20. Just beside that, I don't know if Zainab will say yes to me, says Adeyanju, who rode motorcycle from London to Lagos. Below the page, in the middle, there are pictorials of the INEC chairman observing readiness of the Electoral Commission to conduct the June 18 governorship election in Ekiti State. More stories. Adelabu dumps APC, faults Folarin's emergence as governorship candidate on page 14. Lagos continuous crackdown, demolishes 7 buildings in motion. 4 feared killed as Lagos cultists clash rob residents. On the bottom of the page, can PFN fume as government kidnap Methodist prelate, others in Abia. Another story says, Port Harcourt stampede, church mourns, traces victims' families, club shut. These are many other stories in today's The Punch newspaper.
All right, with that, we'll move on to Leadership newspaper. We have the top story there. Okada riders invade FCT estate, burn houses over colleague's death. How South Supreme Court ruling crumbled Rivers panel indictment of Amechi. And we also have wheat flour substitution fails on low cassava demand supply gap. We also have another story that talks about EFCC arrests Yari over Accountants General's 84 billion naira probe. PDP presidential primary, how Tambuwal's withdrawal swung 182 Northwest votes for Atiku. And more stories on the front page of Leadership. Flight with 22 passengers on board missing in Nepal. We also have train terrorist attack. Terrorists give fresh ultimatum. Obiano's wife, Odua Ekunife, Una Okelekwe, pick Senate tickets. And these are some of the stories on the front page of Leadership newspaper.
The Blueprint newspaper this morning also has a lead story on politics. 2023 presidential ticket, Atiku's emergence as PDP candidate unsettles APC. The story has many riders. The first one says party reschedules convention to June 6, yet to screen aspirants. Tinubu better position to give Atiku a good fight, says party source. Oshibanjo well equipped to confront the ex-VP. Identify the right leader. It's another group. Then zoning slot to Northeast, only way to tackle ex-VP, according to Oji Uzo Kalu. Why ex-President Jonathan's option can't fly, says Lukman. Consensus, still our best bet, says Okechukwu. On top of the page, why Indibo will rise against PDP Atiku, says Ohaneze, accuses party of marginalization and work with Atiku. Work with me, Atiku begs Wike, Saraki, others. On the left-hand side of the front page, Democracy Day, Nogasa committed to delivering on its mandate. Official. At the bottom of the page, UBA rewards loyalty as customers win 16.6 million in Super Savers promo. Russian-Ukraine war subsidy spending on petrol up by 97% in first quarter of 2022. A story on page 25. Still on page 25 of Blueprint, there is a story saying Dangote refinery to expose Nigeria's oil sector to international market. Akwa Ibom, man to die by hanging for killing pregnant wife. Story on page 13. On page 5, there is a story that says ex-Zamfara governor Yari arrested over AGF's Idris 80 billion probe. Last on this row is a story saying insecurity. Southern Kaduna Christian leaders urge communities to defend their land. So these and many other stories will be found in today's Blueprint newspaper.
All right, moving on is a Business Day newspaper, and we have the lead story that says Nigeria's promise fades as economy stutters. We also have at the top of the page, Nigerian tech startups face global capital slowdown. And on the editorial, Buhari, 1 year to go. We also have 2023 campaign, politicians shun Nigerian pilots for expatriates. How Obasanjo's third-term agenda collapsed in Port Harcourt, says Eyo Ekpo. We also have more stories. Presidency, Tinubu sees Atiku as worthy opponent. And these are some of the stories on Business Day newspaper.
We move on to Abuja Inquirer, where the front page this morning carried the lead story that says FCT primaries, aspirants spit fire over minister aides emergence, accuse APC of manipulating process. Still on the front page, rampage in Abuja as hit and run kill 3. On top of the page, reactions as Ayu hails Tambua as hero of convention. The middle of the page, just below the masthead, we have stories. One that says FCTA to establish performance delivery units to track projects. It's a story on page 5 of today's Abuja Inquirer. And while we reopen DDA market, FCTA on page 6. Nigeria to have 29 million child brides by 2050, according to report. It's a story on page 13. And lastly, Nigeria needs 1 trillion to lift children out of poverty, according to UNICEF. Story on page 14. And just before we wrap up this, the front page also carries a pictorial of President Muhammadu Buhari and his wife Aisha attending the meeting extraordinary session of Assembly of Heads of State and Government in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea on May 28. So with that, we move to the next paper, Usena.
All right, next paper is National Economy. And at the top page there, we have Nigeria to enjoy preferential trade access to U.S. markets, says Envoy. And we also have the lead story on interest rate hike. SMEs turn to corporate societies for funding. Raising interest rate will reduce loanable funds for investments, says economists. We also have more stories. Electricity employees to embark on strike over insecurity, vandalism. Details on page 5. ISPC code key to Nigeria's maritime security architecture, says NIMASA. Details still on page 5. We also have an editorial on leader to watch. That's Chugo Ndubisi, a first-class banker at UBA. And these are some of the stories on the front page of National Economy.
The Daily Times, next. It has also some interesting stories, starting from the very top of the page. 2023 reactions greet Atiku's emergence as PDP candidate. A return of PDP will be daybreak, says Ayu. He will never be Nigeria's president, Ohaneze. And Obaseki says mission to rescue Nigeria has started. And to the left of that, Peter Obi advises supporters against personal attacks, says the goal is to make Nigeria better. And below that, 2023, 1,000 middle belt leaders blast PDP over Atiku's emergence. And the lead story in the Daily Times of today says, tenure elongation precursor to violence in Africa, says Buhari. And the president is also reported as saying that it is disincentive to growth of democracy. And citizens' right to vote should not be treated lightly. Just below that, ex-Governor for Governor Yari arrested by EFCC over Accountant General's 80 billion prop. The last story on the front page of Daily Times says Methodist Church prelate Uche, 2 others kidnapped in Abia.
All right, and we'll take the final paper on our list, which is This Nigeria. And we have a story just beside the nameplate that says 37 lawmakers lose bid to return to National Assembly. And EFCC arrests ex-governor, Zamfara Governor Yari over Accountant General's 80 billion naira fraud case. And the lead story is on PDP presidential primary. The grand plot against Wike, intrigues that produced Atiku's candidate, last-minute maneuvers by party northern elders, southern governors. And we also have a pictorial of scenes at the PDP presidential primary held in Abuja over the weekend. We have a story that says, extend voters' registration deadline or face legal action, Serap tells INEC. Methodist Church prelate Uche, 2 others kidnapped in Abia State. And we also have Okada riders set estate ablaze in Abuja over colleague's death. And these are some of the stories on this Nigerian newspaper. Well, with that, we will actually have a detailed review in the next hour when we'll be joined by the Deputy President, Nigerian Guild of Editors, Ali M. Ali. But for now, let's take a look at what is happening as regards, my daily hustle to find out how Nigerians are faring on a daily basis. To stick around.
My name is Lucky Ayasi. I'm a fashion designer, though I'm a journalist by profession turned fashion designer. I'm from Edo State. I reside in Nasarawa State, Akwanga to be precise. But currently, my profession, I'm working in Mina, Niger State. My journey in fashion designing, I think it started right from small, though I was not conscious of it. I was always very particular about what I put on. So I think it started from when I was small, but officially it started after I graduated from school. After my compulsory 1-year youth service, I was pushed into the labor market. And when I entered the labor market, when we were in school, they were telling us that, unemployment, it's hard to get a job and everything. So we did not actually realize how real it was till when we actually entered. So when I entered the labor market, just like your average graduate, I was up and about looking for a job with my CV. I went to Abuja, I went to Punch newspaper, actually went to Daily Trust, I submitted my CV. And I was waiting for the call, but that call did not come. So I think the journey started when I actually decided to go to Mina, because I graduated from Federal Polytechnic Bida, close to Mina. So I wanted to go and process my original results. So when I went to my school, they told me I had to wait for like a week. So I decided to stay back in Mina and wait for the results. While I was in Mina, I was staying with a friend. And I thought, instead of going back to Akwanga where I reside, why not look for something to do? So in the process, I actually got employed as a private school teacher. I was a teacher in a private school. I taught English and literature. While I was there, I now realized something. I was being paid 20,000 naira per month. And I realized before my salary comes, I would have started calling some of my friends back in Akwanga, telling them to borrow me money. Several times I called a very close friend of mine. I needed money to buy food. She sent 5,000 naira. So I realized the pattern. Before I get paid, I was already in debt. And I did not like that situation. I think the real game changer came for me when I was in my room sitting one day, and there was a neighbor of mine. He was also a teacher, an older man. He was talking to his wife and quarreling with his wife, and they were arguing about money. And I was like, how will I continue living like this? This is a job I'm doing, and before they get to the end of the month, I'm already looking for somebody to borrow me money. I was not actually happy with the situation. So I now thought, what is it that I can do? What value can I actually give that I'll get paid for? What is my passion? What is it that what is it that I love? So I was now thinking, and I prayed over it. And while I was praying, I was juggling between fashion designing and carpentry. So furniture making. So I was juggling. I actually also consider them solar installation of solar panels. So there were some ideas in my head. So I prayed over it, and when God just revealed that my path is geared towards fashion designing. I spoke to my pastor. They made some research, and long story short, I actually enrolled here, and it's been a journey, a wonderful journey. Normally, the society often dictates to us what paths we have to follow. And back then, there was this narrative that the future is in renewable energy. That's the future, since epileptic power supply in the country. So people were saying, if you go into solar, you're making a lot of money. Some people were saying in carpentry, carpenters and furniture makers are making quite a sum, while others are saying fashion designing. So then what was actually propelling me then was money. What area will I go into that will actually fetch money? Then I got to realize it's not just all about the money. It's what I'm actually interested in, what I'm passionate, what I love doing. So I now thought, I reflected, I was like, furniture making. If I go into furniture making, is this something I love doing? Is this something I will love doing even if I don't get paid for it? I reflected and I didn't think so. I now reflected on solar energy. I was like, do I actually love installing solar panel, or is it just something I want to go into for the money, just to make it? I now reflected, I was like, no. So I prayed over it, and I got to realize that this fashion thing, because even before I got into fashion designing, I love outfits, like especially traditional attires, like what I'm wearing right now. So I loved to, my tailors they were making money off me, literally. So I was like, instead of me paying them to actually sew for me, why don't I actually go into it myself and actually enjoy the process at the same time, get paid for it? So that was what propelled me. Fashion is a very interesting occupation. It's very interesting in the sense that it's not a straitjacket occupation where they say you must do this, you must do that, you must follow this, you must follow that. It's very flexible. One thing I love about fashion designing is you can change the narrative. If they say, if you want to make an outfit, for instance, you can decide to make the sleeve a certain length. You can decide to make the pocket design in a certain way, to just your personality, to your taste. So there's no rigid rule. So it's a very creative work, in the sense that you can get inspired from different things, different ways, and different experiences.
You know, before you cut any style, the first thing to do is to determine the quantity of fabric that you need for such style. From the first day Lucky joined this academy, it was really amazing, because I see the passion, I see the desire. At the end of the day, I didn't just consider him as somebody who I'm training, but I consider him as my personal PA. In fact, he follows every move. He's always interested in seeing whatever I'm doing. He never wants to miss any class at all. And because he has passion for it, one good thing about him is he always wants to learn ahead. whenever we have a class, Lucky will go online, browse, and even come back to me and show me a video that, Oga, this is what I saw. I just see exactly what you are doing. But I think other people are also doing this method. So when I see, I say, Lucky, I like the way you are going about this. I really want you to go on with this.
When it comes to cutting, I think I've gotten to that professional state, and it didn't just happen. It took consistency, sleepless nights, online videos, YouTube, tutorial videos, practice, pieces. Sometimes I have to get lining so that I will cut and practice. So it took a hell lot of sacrifice. Before I could actually beat my chest and say I am very good at cutting, it took almost a year plus. So if for that potential fashion designer who wants to go into fashion and he thinks maybe after 2 weeks or 3 weeks he will know everything about fashion, cutting and everything, it's a lie. It takes time and it takes sacrifice. Fashion is a very complex skill. Even aside cutting, even sewing, there are instances where there was a time I got a work from a customer. He gave me fabric. I attempted cutting on my own. I actually destroyed the fabric because I didn't get the measurement right. I had to go to the market and get a new fabric, and this is a fabric I got almost close to 10,000 naira. I had to buy it again because I destroyed the initial fabric he gave me. So I had to go to the market, get a new fabric and bring it to my boss to help me with the cutting. As a fashion designer, in the next couple of years, I plan to have a fashion house, like a fashion house. Now we're currently running on a shop level. I believe we can go global more than that. And specifically, I want to have a fashion house with hundreds, if not thousands of tailors working for me. So quality clothing, quality designs, quality work, and you get your prompt response, and we'll have branches in different states. So I think we want to go national, if not international. So I think that's the dream. In a couple of years, by God's grace, I believe I'm going to achieve it.
Good morning and welcome to Daybreak on Trust TV. I'm Dashan Husseina Usman. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Dashan, and good morning, viewers. I am Abdulaziz Abdulaziz. It's a beautiful morning here in Abuja, and thank you for being with us.
Now, moving on to the highlights. PDP cancels primaries in Ebonyi State.
Ex-governor arrested over Accountant General's 80 billion naira probe.
Zamfara relocates NYSC orientation camp to Gusau.
The National Working Committee, NWC, of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has approved cancellation of all primaries in Ebonyi State. This is contained in a statement issued by its National Publicity Secretary, Mustadebo Ologunaba, on Sunday in Abuja. The statement said that the NWC made the cancellation after extensive consultations, deliberations, and review of all issues. The party charges all aspirants, critical stakeholders, leaders, and members of the party in Ebonyi State to remain calm, united, and focused as it takes firm steps to rescue the nation.
Still on highlights at this hour, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has arrested former Governor Abdulaziz Yari in connection with the agency's ongoing investigation of the suspended Accountant General of the Federation, Ahmed Idris. Mr. Yari, a former governor of Zamfara State, was arrested on Sunday at his residence in Abuja days after he won the ruling APC's ticket for Zamfara West senatorial election holding next year. He won unopposed. The AGF under criminal investigation, Mr. Idris, has been in the EFCC custody since May 16, facing investigators over allegations of corruption to the tune of 80 billion naira. Investigators are working with the lead that the allegedly conspired with others to steal public funds, which by his role he was meant to safeguard.
Still on, the Zamfara state government has temporarily relocated the National Youth Service Corps NYSC orientation camp from the Safi local government to Gusau in the state capital over rising insecurity. The state deputy governor, Senator Hassan Mohammed Gusau, disclosed this while receiving the Director General of the NYSC, Brigadier General M.K. Fada. The deputy governor gave a brief account of the security situation in the state, informing the Director General that the situation is gradually improving as relative peace is being restored while people are going on with their normal businesses. The deputy governor further explained that the state government reasoned with the NYSC authorities for suspending the orientation camp activities in the state, sequel to the then escalated security challenges. With that, we come to the end of the news highlights. We come back with more details after the break.
Couples in northern Nigeria often have disagreements over family planning or child spacing due to religious or cultural factors. Trust TV brings to the fore the story of a 29-year-old housewife who boycotted her matrimonial home after her husband suggested family planning for the family. The report.
Shamsiya Yunusa is 29, married to Aminu Salisu. They had 8 children, but 3 died. Aminu wants his wife to adopt family planning for the sake of her health and that of the children, but she declined. Shamsiya used to give birth every year and her husband is worried.
I advised her. She even said that she didn't agree. I even go to her parents. She didn't accept it. I follow our traditional leaders how to advise her. She didn't accept it. That is where I started getting the problem with her. She even go back her whole house. She said that I didn't want her to born children, and I want maybe I will go and add another woman to get another children, but her I will leave her at home without getting children. That is how it starts. I try my possible best to tell her, because I convinced her a woman without education is just like a house without foundation. I say that if she allow herself sitting down at home, and when another woman come to the house that she's educated, she's going to take over the house. And you know, women didn't want to see second wife at home. That is why she's convinced, and she said that she agreed.
After boycotting her husband's home to protest against family planning, Shamsiya had finally accepted after a series of pleas by her husband.
So it's because I want to have more spacing for the child, for the birth. Yes, it helped me to take care of my children, and it helped us. It helped me and my husband through our financial sources. So now we don't have, as I am doing planning, I don't have money problem.
The mother of 5 says after adopting family planning and subscribing to a 5-year child spacing procedure, she has witnessed improvement in her health and that of her last child, who now enjoys adequate attention. Shamsiya and her husband are now advocates of family planning in Gombe. From Gombe, Ibrahim Ismail reporting for Trust TV.
May 29, 2015, President Muhammadu Buhari was sworn in to govern the country, which was regarded then as the largest economy in Africa. He was elected by Nigerians based on his promises to fix the economy, fight corruption, and secure the nation. Years down the line, Kainde Amodu looks at how well the president has kept these promises. the report.
President Buhari's most notable quote when he took the oath of office on May 29, 2015, was that he was for everybody and for nobody. It was supposed to portray the new president as an impartial person who would treat all Nigerians equally. Has he kept his word to be impartial?
In so many areas and so many spheres, appointments into positions of responsibility, positions of authority, and so forth and so on, are carried out without the federal character, adherence to federal character principle.
However, one thing Nigerians agree on, despite the statistics churned out by government, is that the economy has nosedived, as indicated by constantly spiraling inflation and ever-rising cost of living.
The exchange rate is getting worse every day. The dollar is now 607 to 608, from what he inherited as 198 to $1, and so it becomes very frightening as to where our economy is heading to.
It has also been hard to keep the promise to secure the nation.
The heat had become unbearable for them in the Northeast. Northeast terrorism had declined, acknowledged internationally, by more than 90%. So it's not surprising that a few had splintered and had found their way into safer areas of the country. The thing to say is that the military, the defense establishment in the country is getting weapons. They have re-strategized, and they have repositioned the troops and leaderships in some of these areas, and we're hoping that the results will begin to show in the coming days and weeks.
Apart from rhetorics, apart from some empty promises, meeting of service chiefs, who's the president's salutary moves and so on and so forth, we have not seen something decisive towards tackling this problem. So as far as I'm concerned, it is the will, the political will, that is simply not there.
But perhaps most vilified is the administration's fight against corruption, which sometimes looks lackluster and fraught with inconsistencies. And what is the logic behind pardoning ex-governors who have been tried and found guilty of corruption?
Government is supposed to fight against corruption, and then it is now setting those people who are high-profile personalities that are being convicted for corruption and is setting them free. It means that there is no genuine and sincere methods of fighting corruption. The actual idea of fighting corruption was only for the attention of the media and for the attention of the society, which has been done. A lot of media trials have gone, but the courts have not been able to convict most of those people who have been charged to court.
The moral, the tone has been changed. Even if we have not eliminated corruption 100%, it is unlikely that anybody can tell you that they have eliminated corruption by 100%. But the fact that there is a sense today in the country that there is right, there is wrong, and that corruption is wrong, it is not right, is an achievement, because in the past, people will not make any distinction between right or wrong.
However, a statement released on Saturday by the Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, described those looking at the Buhari presidency from the angle of challenges alone as revisionists. Mr. Adesina also released a fact sheet indicating the administration's achievements in developing roads, bridges, rail, aviation, and seaports. The president's spokesman said a lot more would still be done in the last 12 months in the life of the administration. Kehinde Amodu, Trust TV News, Abuja.
The anti-vandal squad of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps Rivers State Command has uncovered a residential building that doubles as a dump site for the storage of locally and legally refined automotive gas oil. The discovery, according to the command, is part of the activities geared towards checkmating the excesses of oil thieves and bunkerers, as well as ensuring that critical national assets in the state are safe from economic saboteurs. The report.
Addressing newsmen at the scene of the crime, the Rivers State NSCDC Commandant Abu Tamwell, who was represented by the head of the Anti-Vandal Squad, Deputy Commandant Joachim Okafo, said the discovery followed sustained intelligence that a particular building along a notable university in Port Harcourt is being used as a loading point of illegally refined AGO. Okafo said the surveillance team of the Anti-Vandal Squad swung into action to effect the arrest of those carrying out the act, which amounts to economic sabotage.
I eventually ordered my men to advance into the compound and will later confirm that the compound is being used as a loading point of this illegally refined automotive gas oil, popularly known as AGO.
The Deputy Commandant said during the arrest the team also identified a local jetty near the scene of the crime where illegally refined AGO is being loaded for onward transmission to would-be buyers.
A black Lexus 330 saloon car with number plate Bayasa GBB 52EA. A Toyota Avalon gold color with registration number Livers FH 730 PHC, laden with some cellophane bags of illegally refined AGO, a boat engine, and several bags of AGO stored in cellophane bags scattered within the premises, as you can see.
He said the command will approach the court with requisite jurisdiction to make necessary application for the forfeiture of the petroleum products, mode of conveyance, and the residential apartment, since it contravenes the provisions of the Miscellaneous Offences Act 2004 laws of the Federation.
All right, with that, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, it'll be time for the newspaper review.
But in a situation where you find that a look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
I have said that.
Okay, all right, so welcome back. Right now, it's time for us to review the papers more in depth. And in the studio, we have with us the Deputy President, Nigerian Guild of Editors, Ali M. Ali, joining us for a detailed review of the front pages. Good morning and welcome to Daybreak.
Well, good morning.
Again.
It's good to be here.
All right, so now briefly, let's talk about, the story on the front page of Daily Trust newspaper. It talks about, APC weighing options as Atiku shops for running mate, in regards to the fallout of the PDP primaries. What's your take on this?
Well, the nomination of Atiku itself didn't come really as much of a surprise. You know, politics sometimes you never can predict. It's very erratic, especially in Nigeria's kind of politics. It's a quicksand. Permutations change literally at the drop of a hat. So it's not surprising that Atiku perhaps has. And now, of course, you have to also look at the possibilities. There are all kinds of possibilities. But with Atiku now as the flag bearer of the party, yes, you expect that, especially with the exit also of Peter Obi, who exited from the party. You know, Peter Obi paired up with Atiku in 2019, and people thought they were going to really fly. But between 2019 and now, like they say, a lot of water has passed under the bridge. So many things have changed. So the PDP, well, most people say, yeah, PDP is looking good. It manages the the fallout of the primaries. And, you know, it was quite rancorous, leading to the nomination of Atiku eventually. And yes, if it manages that rancor, and I think Atiku being a veteran of this kind of, if you like, quote unquote, bloody battle for the party's ticket, he'll be able to manage this rancor and then resolve the conflict. Eventually, between now and election time, depending on who they again pair up with Atiku, I see them looking strong, bridging the gap. as a result of the very, if you like, acidic process that eventually threw up Atiku as the flag bearer. And you can see a lot of horse trading that occur before eventually Atiku triumph. And then the margin itself. And because of this horse trading, you will see that there will be new power blocks now, even within the PDP. Because up until Saturday, it could have been anything. But you will say the morning foretells the day. The dawn foretells the day. When the PDP actually threw open the contest, rather than zone it, then you knew that a scenario like this was bound to happen. Because like I said, Atiku is a veteran of this kind of... so depending on how...
But then, sir, the issue of course, it's one thing to have the ticket, but it's another thing to balance it and make it bankable.
Yeah.
How do you see this issue of running mate? What's like Atiku's best bets in maybe balancing the tickets that can really maybe lead to a victory at the general election?
Well, I think if you really want to balance the ticket, you see, like I always say, sometimes people look at, they don't look at, politicians don't look at sentiments. It's just that in the process of trying to get into certain offices or elective, or especially elective, we deploy the usual sentiments. In the process of capturing political power, people deploy all the sentiments you can think of. Negative, especially, just in a way to, but then you see, that's why perhaps the PDP actually opened the contest when it realized like who posted the most numbers. Because you see, at crunch time, you look at who is a bankable project, like you said. When, let me slightly digress and make this allusion to how Buhari became the flag bearer of the APC. Buhari, in matters of, if you like, firepower, money firepower, I'm talking money back. Buhari was in no position to perhaps run in a battle of obscene exhibition of wealth. Buhari couldn't have contested against the likes of Atiku and some of the governors that contested in 2014 alongside him, like Rabi Musa Konkoso when he was governor of Kano State. And then Buhari, out of the blue, because people, even his most ardent critics, his traducers, look at his numbers. For 12 years, consistently, he has posted very handsome number. That is 10 million and above. Every contest, 2003, 2007, and 2011, he has maintained consistently over 10 million votes. And this is why it's going to play out. Atiku, yes, he has been a veteran of sorts. He has contested either pre-primaries. He has been on the ballot twice, in 2007, and I think in 2019. 2007, he ran on the platform of the ACN. 2019 on the platform...
The AC, rather.
Oh, of the AC Action Congress, and later on ACN. Now, in 2019, on the... but then, away from that, how many times had Buhari been on the ballot? 3 times. It was his fourth strike after he had given up. At a point after the 3rd strike, and in every of his attempts at having presidential mandate, it ended up in court, in litigation, leading up to the Supreme Court. But then the 4th time after he said, look, I'm not even going to contest. And some people rallied around, and then he got a section of the elite consensus, a section of the Nigerian elite endorsed Buhari. And this is how Buhari became president in 20. He didn't have the resources. If you remember, even at the time, he said he was crowdfunded. A lot of Nigerians who believed in his ability to rescue Nigeria in 2014 actually crowdfunded his presidential ambition. And he took a personal loan, according to him, to buy the nomination form. Now look at Atiku now. Atiku numbers, look at in the last election, he posted a very handsome number, if you ask me. I think 13 million votes or thereabout. Now, who he is going to balance the ticket with will have to come from a place that you think you have the most votes, so that from the northern part, especially the northeast, which has been, for certain reasons, most of them, you know them, social and economic and even political, has depleted the region of voters, if you like. Whether we admit it to ourselves or not, the northeast, because of what's going on there, especially in the Borno axis, it has depleted, some people will say, until perhaps Zulum began to resettle some of those who have been internally displaced persons. So, but you're looking at numbers now. So I would see that if Atiku, and then for the sake of national cohesion, I think Atiku should look in the direction of the southeast for a possible running mate. Notwithstanding the exit of big weights in the southeast and this prevailing sentiment there. The prevailing sentiment is that the PDP has not been fair to the region, which has been very loyal to the PDP in the last 20 years, the southeast. But then some people will say the southeast has not been really political, has not been politically savvy. Because if you look at other regions of the country, except for the southwest, even the southwest now, you know, there are divisions. The head mentality is becoming increasingly diluted in the southwest. There are people even till today, until recently, you find other sentiments, the Labour Party held sway under Mimiko until he also made crossover to another political party. So even now there are persuasions, they may be, okay now, look at how do you explain, notwithstanding that there are no sitting governors, how do you explain the resurgence of the SDP in the southwest?
Okay. All right.
So they will look at places where there will be numbers. And I think Atiku, like I said, for the sake of national cohesion.
All right, so let's move on to more stories. Still on politics, by the way. What's your thoughts on the plot, to draft Jonathan into the race? Because some people are actually saying that the president actually has no hand in it, and while others, the Southwest chieftains, are warning against Jonathan's candidature.
Well, I think it's you can see it's a last-ditch desperate effort to stop a dominant force in the APC. And I think it will be a political disaster for the APC to think of perhaps fielding Jonathan. And it will even be a bigger personal disaster, political disaster for Jonathan to even consider. The mere fact that he's considering it makes him a little bit desperate, because this is an argument that is in the public domain now. It's not original to me, but it's something that I also share. And I think it shows the character of the APC. And it shows the character of the both sides, the APC and former President Jonathan. Both of them, probably they are very desperate people. And then clearly it shows that, well, like they say, in politics there is no morality, no permanent friend or foe. It's just a matter of interest. But then how more desperate can you be for both sides of the equation? The APC, how desperate. This was a man you guys demonized 7 years ago. And that with him out of power, Nigeria will become an El Dorado of South. This is how they bamboozle Nigerians. And a lot of us bought in the hype. Then 7 years later, you are also desperately, then it shows how much the APC has underperformed and how much it has failed to deliver on some of these lofty goals it promised Nigerians. The APC is coming across gradually as big on plans, very big, mighty on plans, but on delivery it's always coming short. They plan big and execute at the height of a pygmy. Yes, you see they plan big, and then you will say even the promises of the APC is inversely proportional with their, as they make lofty goals, you see that they're also delivering very short. But you see, to also be fair to the APC government, and this is why you must commend the APC government, in matters of infrastructural delivery. You said it has done quite remarkably well, but it's falling short on some of the things it promised Nigeria, one of which, and for which Jonathan was routinely demonized, and the PDP demonized as well, was its inability to check insecurity. What do we have now? All them people, they bandied this idea that, look, the APC has managed to liberate some of the, especially in Borno, local government under the control of insurgent element. That has become like a broken tune. Every now and again, you find, you see defenders of the government, in government or outside of it, that it has liberated. But you see, not too long ago, the governor of Borno State countered that argument, that look, till this moment there are local government under the control of insurgents. I don't know, as recently as this year. Now, that is one. And then look at the Northwest. In the past, the theater of war, if you like that expression, was limited to the Northeast. But now, it has also, if you like, let me use the word, deregulated now. It's now, it's everywhere. In the Northwest, banditry. And clearly, there is unholy, if you like, an unholy alliance between bandits and insurgents. An example is the manner the train was sabotaged and then hijacked by elements that are not bandits. And you see bandits, because banditry now is like when we have the rise of the herdsman. It has become a franchise. Wonder which all kinds of crime is committed. And then you find out there is some kind of, if you like, alliance between politicians in some part of the country with these dark forces. It has come to the fore now. Abdulaziz actually did a very intensive documentary, and I remember watching it. Some of the alliance, not captured in so many one, but then you see that there is some kind of alliance in some places between dark forces and people visible in government. Names have even been mentioned. Yes.
So let's go back a bit to this and tidy up this issue of the politics. Now, what are the options for APC? Especially, over the weekend, people have been, tongues have been wagging about what is the best foot for the APC to put forward to confront Atiku.
Well, you see, the APC, if it were to be politically savvy, correct, to win, it has to look at numbers, not faces, not sentiments. And I think this is what the PDP did and came up with an Atiku. My position, I have said it in a different fora. For example, I think Atiku eminently qualifies he is, and then he has been more of a unifier given our contemporary realities. You will say Atiku is a unifier, given our contemporary, present-day Nigerian realities. He has enjoyed the support. He has built this network of consensus, of elite consensus. As Buhari had a control over those at the bottom of the social ladder. This was Buhari's support base. Atiku, on the other hand, now, what do? You need someone who perhaps would enjoy the support of at least a majority of the elite class and has followership, who is very political. And right now, no one fits the bill in the APC like Tinubu. We're talking politically, whether Tinubu will be able to discharge the responsibilities of the office of the Commander-in-Chief. Just like I have my doubt about the competence and ability of Atiku to discharge the responsibilities of the office of Commander-in-Chief. For a number of reasons. People they point at their ages. I don't have quarrel with their ages, both dominant forces in the PDP and the APC. And then also someone like Tinubu, people say, yeah, and I think so. He's a dominant force, is very political. He has built bridges, he has built coalition, and you can see he enjoys the support of APC stalwarts beyond his southwest constituency. In fact, some people say he faces more antagonism in the southwest than he does in some parts of the country. In some geopolitical zones, he enjoys considerable support in the northwest. And this is where the most votes are domiciled. If you take a state like Kano, do you know that in Kano now, so far over 7 million people have been registered as voters? That's more than the the voting population of maybe a few states in the south and the southeast, maybe collectively in the southeast. That is one single. And then whoever controls the northwest, if you have the large, then you know he's going to coast to victory, depending if he gets the 25% required in 2/3 of the 36 states. So if APC wants to check Atiku, her best foot forward, devoid of sentiments, is to consider Tinubu. He is the dominant force. But you see, like I said, both Atiku and Tinubu, at a time like this, the exigencies, the realities, the difficulties facing the nation, we need someone who will be hands on 247. Now, there are questions now about the state of health of especially Tinubu. But you can see he's a man of ideas. And when people point at Atiku being old, well into his 70s, Tinubu 70, but are their ideas old? I don't, like I said, I have no quarrel with their ages, but also it should interest the Nigerian people to know the state of their health. Because we've experienced, we've had a president with frail health, and it has cost the nation dearly. And part of the thing that has caused it has polarized the nation. We know that with Eradua's failing health, notwithstanding it has been in the public domain, we had the rise of the cabal. Till this moment, there are cabals.
All right. Now let's move on to another story that's practically on every front page of the dailies today. Talking about former Zamfara State Governor Yari being dragged into the 80 billion naira, fraud case of the Accountant General. What are your thoughts on?
Well, I think lately the APC has found its mojo. Let's just pray that it will do this across, extend this further. But it leaves, it gives no room for chair. We've seen this in the past, so it gives no room for any chair. It's something that after the initial media, if you like, blitz or trial, then we go to sleep. And then rarely we get, and even if we get convictions, if you are in the good books of certain elements or certain powers, then you may get state pardon. We've seen that happen with the likes of Jolly Inyami. So I'm very pessimistic. But it's a good thing for now that the EFCC finally found its mojo, and maybe in a way, let's just wait and see. But you see, the point is that what the former suspended accountant general did, it was so brazen. I had expected by now that would be beyond the investigation. I'm sure further inquisition would bring up, it will surprise a lot of Nigerians who are involved in this feast, because literally these leeches, and I'm using this word deliberately, feasted on the Nigerian people at a time education, especially at tertiary level, has been literally comatose. You understand, because of the lingering and avoidable strike, and then you have individuals now entrusted with the common till diverting this. But you must also give it to the EFCC that at least these things, we know, all along we've suspected that, look, there is more than what meets the eye. And the suspicion that Yari benefited from a suspicious payment of 20 billion, then you begin to wonder, what is he known to be a contractor or what? What is he selling? What is he into? That you will be paid this colossal amount. Is it by any chance money meant for Zamfara State government somehow found its way into his... I don't know of any other business he does apart from politicking. If at all he's involved in any other business, at least it's not in the public domain. It might have escaped as a reporter myself. But then you see, if the EFCC digs further, there will be a lot of names. And we want to see that beyond being arrested, like the case of Okorocha, who actually resisted arrest, and the EFCC went gung-ho, literally, to have him arrested. You say, yeah, did he or didn't he? That's the question. So, but politically speaking, and as watchers of Nigeria's endless theater of the absurd, you say that, well, we've seen there, you get this feeling of déjà vu. We've been there, we've done that. So nothing really to cheer about. But it's welcome, and I think lately, if you look at the former MD of NDDC, who's embezzled almost 50 billion, then you begin to wonder, how come Nigeria has not... You can understand why we're in the state we are now. And I had expected the EFCC, well, it was there when the PDP presidential primary was conducted. And then you see the amount of money spent in foreign currency, and it's a hostile action against the state. itself, that is another definition of economic sabotage. When you use a foreign currency, part of the factors bringing about inflation, well, what we're having now is even hyperinflation when you dollarize the economy. And then we see what had happened. Is there in the public domain the amount of corruption? When people like Hayatuddin, like Peter Obi, pull out from the race, Hayatuddin said, look, about the obscene monetization of the, we all know that. So EFCC by now should be asking questions. Some of these elements, how did they get the money? They have, because of course some like sitting governors, they have immunity. But then the EFCC should be seen to clearly monitor this, what's going on there. And I think whoever takes charge, there should be a law. This is my suggestion, to legislate against perhaps stuff like this. When you use the foreign currency to entice voters, delegates. Then you are harming the economy. The dollar now, $1 is over 600. And there are fears that it may get up to as much as 800. So the Naira has become literally a contemptible piece of paper that gives money a bad name, literally. So it's the good thing that EFCC is focusing its attention, digging further into this monumental fraud, 80 billion, and still literally still counting because there are other unlimited amounts of money set for forfeited, or recovered, which have not been accounted for. So I think the EFCC...
Going into, we are going into election year, and don't you think that this could be, have some political undertones, all this new mojo, as you said, that the EFCC is displaying now?
Unfortunately, at a time like this, most Nigerians would think, yes, the EFCC is being politically, it's been political. You understand, but better late than never. But then the timing, don't forget, the EFCC has a reputation of being the hound of the ruling party. We've seen that happen. Even under its first chairman, we've seen that happen. If you run foul of the ruling government or the men at the very top, I remember how the likes of Darie, the likes of Alama Seya, how they were impeached using the EFCC in a gung-ho manner. So, and the EFCC Act is meant for financial corruption. Financial corruption. That means, in other words, in our climb, we say Yahoo boys. You fight Yahoo boys, fraudsters. But then it has suddenly become, as opposed to the ICPC. If you look at the act establishing the ICPC, it's far more encompassing. And that ICPC, in fact, should be the one going after, ideally, the one going after...
public sector corruption.
Precisely, that's the word. But then you have EFCC now doing that. And that's why people think, most of what I think, that it may be doing the right thing, but going about it wrongly. You understand? It's only when you are perceived to be a threat or a stumbling block or an obstacle to the prevailing powers, the powers, contemporary powers, that's when the ruling party now will unleash the hound, the EFCC, the hound, to go after you. But otherwise, you look at the beautiful thing it has done with cyber criminals, fraudsters. You understand? So it's a beautiful thing if it's dealing with Yahoo boys, like they call them here, the Yahoo elements, yes, and other cyber criminals, other financial fraud in banks especially. We have them. We've seen chief executives of banks who have committed monumental fraud, mismanaged depositors' resources. But how often do you get to hear of the EFCC going? So ICPC is there, but then maybe it's not doing its work. EFCC has hijacked its role. So yes, Abdulaziz, you have a very solid, very valid point there. Suspicion is that there is more than what meets the eye. It's more political than actually economic. It's more political, it's a self-certain interest. And then you look at some of the elements now who have lately been in the net of the EFCC. First, like I said, the relevant question, did they or didn't they commit to what? So if they committed, why did it take this long for them to uncover? Because I had thought, even till this moment, if you make suspicious lodgement, there is certain amount of money as individual now and corporate organization. The moment you lodge them, there will be a red flag.
To be flagged.
Yes.
At least 37 lawmakers, according to this Nigeria newspaper, will lose the bid to return to National Assembly. It's also one story that is recurrent. Daily Trust has it in the cover page, and also I think one other newspaper that I've seen this morning. How good or bad is this retirement in court of lawmakers from the National Assembly? How good or bad is it to the polity in general?
Well, I think for institutional memory, I think it's bad. When you have a lot of turnover, especially in the legislative arm. But you see, like they say, all politics is local. There are people really, they have no added value being in the parliament, apart from themselves. There are people probably, if you ask me, maybe you're a rep now, or you're representative in the National Assembly. Her representative, how often do you see them being active? I don't know them. You understand? Abdulaziz, I can hazard a guess. You understand? But how often, how vibrant are they? So if they lose out in the primaries, that means they have actually even not done what their constituents are unhappy with them. Or there is a local godfather there who controls the local structure there. And that means they are mere paper tigers at home. But there are also people who are very expressive, who have done a lot, but because they cannot meet with certain demands back home. Sometimes people confuse the role of legislature with that of the executive. You are expected to compete with the local government chairman or with the state governor. And meanwhile, the most they can do is what they call, maybe in some climes in democracy, sweeteners. What I mean sweeteners, get a few constituency projects. But you expect legislators, those in the legislative arm, to compete in terms of war chest, in terms of giving whatever wildfire there is. I'm using this word, wildfire, because most people, when they say they have not performed, it's because they are not doling out this so-called wildfire. So why do you get that? And that's why there is also suspicion. If you go to MDAs, all of them, they complain, especially when you have committees doing oversight function. It's another byword. When you do oversight function, it's another byword for corruption, that is for demand. We've seen that happening, even sometimes in the public space. I remember one clear example. Well, I don't want to mention names, but this is in the public domain. We know that legislators, sometimes we've seen cases of budget being inflated, pardon they call it, because they want to serve certain interest. We've seen instances where even monetary the pardon done is to clearly serve vested interest. And then, but coming back to this, how, like I said, is for institutional memory, when you have too much turnover, that means new fresh hands coming in, we'll have to start the process learning over and over again. And then in between, like it happened in 2015, when there was the tsunami, the Buhari tsunami, the APC tsunami, swept virtually 60% of legislators out of, especially in the northern part of the country. So, but if you have this gap, then democracy is the worst for it. But then, even if we're looking at our own democracy, some people say they quarrel with our brand of democracy, actually, because how free are the voters to vote? How free? Oh, look at what the classic example with the primaries now done and almost dusted. And I think how the delegates, they have compromised. Elsewhere, when you have delegates, they are people of conviction. They are not easily induced by material but they look at people of conviction. But here you have delegates literally, what happened, the primary it was a bazaar. It went to the highest bidder, except what we saw over the weekend, the classic example how also politics prevail in addition to the bazaar. If it was sheer bazaar now, perhaps Atiku wouldn't have emerged. But you see, there was a lot of politicking.
Okay. Now, we're moving on to a story on the Punch newspaper. Now, in light of the recent fuel scarcity, Ipman is actually saying that cabals are benefiting from petrol imports and frustrating local refineries.
Yeah, Ipman is very right. In fact, just like it serves some people very well for the railways to remain comatose. Because if the railways was up and about, the amount of haulage and then the amount of destruction visited on our roads by heavy-duty trucks would be minimized. But it serves the interest of certain powerful forces in the transport sector for the railways to remain. So naturally you expect that people who are benefiting from fuel import, see, this is the problem we have in this country. And that's why people say, when people from views from abroad, newspapers, institutions, research institutions say Nigeria is a failed state. These are the indices that confirm that indeed we are failing. Because if oil, which is native to us, oil is native to us, but we can't refine it. And in the process of refining, there are byproducts. The value chain there is enormous, but it's lost when we export crude oil, then import refined oil. Like I said, the value chain is quite long. You have bitumen, you have diesel, so many. But then it's lost. We export it, then we import it. And because, if you remember, I remember the days of the controversial CBN governor we had, who later became the Emir of Kano, and of course also exited as Emir of Kano. He said, look, it was a scam, the fuel subsidy at that time. People would come, bring papers. Actually, there was no fuel, no shipment. But it served certain people right. And you remember also, in the course of investigating that scam, it consumed another rep member, if you remember, who served as an ad hoc committee chairman to discover. And then they discovered that, look, truly, the allegation of the CBN governor was not misplaced. Now, it serves certain people to Nigeria, for Nigeria to continuously import. And this is how we destroy local industry. When we import, we are depriving first workforce, people, we are creating unemployment. Because if you refine locally, the refinery will be up and about, the value chain there, you know. But here we have, look at the vicious cycle we have. Here we have the nation's biggest oil company, the NNPC. No refining, zero refining. And then consuming, look at the amount of money budgeted for turnaround. It's there in the public domain for zero refining. 0 liter refining. So because it serves some people. And in this country, anytime you are importing anything, somebody somewhere is making tons of money because it serves. And that's why collectively these actions and inactions, if you like, inimical to the growth of the nation. And that's why we're in this vicious cycle. And look at, for example, the amount of money from the days of the PDP budgeted to improve power at a point $16 billion. And what do we get to this moment?
So, talking of inaction, I actually wanted to ride on that issue of this thing, to talk about in general the issue of cabals. Almost in every sector you see cabals are making it difficult to do this, cabals are making it difficult to fix the power, cabals are making it difficult to, you know, maybe manage pension properly and all that. Whose fault is it?
Leadership. Okay. Leadership.
At what level?
I think both levels, I mean, followership and leadership, but more importantly, leadership. Because, see, leadership is about conflict resolution, about having an ideal, about aspiration, and about walking the talk. There's one thing to say, I aspire to be like Malaysia, and then you go to sleep. It's a nation building, it's a deliberate process. All the great nations, except perhaps even the United States, when we look at the United States, I mean, people think it's the product of toil. You know, they say sometimes success is hard work. But success is, like they say this expression, 90% perspiration, 10% inspiration. If you get inspired, then you have to perspire. You have to really sweat. You have to work your fingers to the bone. Now, that's why I say leadership is important. When you lead, and you lead from, not from the rear, you lead morally and otherwise. You should not be found wanting. Look at Mandela. Look at all the world great leaders, contemporary times. Look at even Vladimir Putin. You see, when you want to build a nation, there are certain, well, some people will say, this is not democracy. There are certain things that you cannot condone. One of which is tardiness, egoistic elements around you and people who run. That's why you have to apply the law to the latter, no selective application of the law. And this is what leadership, when Mandela, you understand, when he took over power, this is something in the market square. It's something that is so well known. When he was asked, he said, look, I have opposed white minority rule. I will not replace that with black majority oppression. And this is leadership. So, but you see what we do now, people tend to look at faces to determine what fate will happen to them. So, and then secondly, leadership, followership itself. Because the followership, more often than not, because look, unfortunately, and this it took some time to happen. If you recall, after the Civil War, what did Gowon do differently? That he managed to unite a fractured nation. Look at the reconciliatory move made by Gowon after the war, and which made it possible for a Southeasterner to become number 2 citizen under 9 years. The Civil War ended in 1970, and by 1979, Alex Ukweme had become number 2 citizen. He was just a heartbeat away from being president. Now, in contemporary times, in contemporary Nigeria, we've seen it. The Southeasterners, they feel marginalized. And what do? Rather to build nations, to build bridges, some of them, new elements, young elements, especially in separatist groups like IPOB, the Biafran ideal, which has been vanquished 52 years ago, there's a resurgence of that sentiment. And you begin to wonder what happened between 1999 to date. Then you look at our political actors. What have they done? And then you look at people even from the Southeast. You see, the thing is, like one of the Southeasterners brilliantly, given what is happening in the Southeast now, I'm giving this in response to what you've said about cabals, about leadership, about leadership. If you don't do things right from the onset, like Gowon did, deliberately, Gowon, naive as he was, but because he had people surrounding him, like you said one time, you said, no bad leaders, only bad advisors. But you look around you now, we have leadership from 1999, a leadership that is more often than not has proved to be omniscient, all-knowing. It began with Obasanjo, and then we have this thing about, if you like, Babacracy, like they call it in, everybody, the leader is Baba. And you dare not challenge your Baba. You dare not challenge, even with better counsel. And then you have leaders who are unapproachable. Then how can you lead when you don't get the right feedback? And then when you declare constructive criticisms, well, I agree some criticisms are really unfounded, but then when you declare critics as enemy of the state, giving you alternative viewpoints, that if you do this thing differently, then we'll be home and dry. If you did that differently, but then when you continuously use the same strategy for the same problem, what you think you will get a different result? You won't.
Yeah, so the Nation newspaper and some other papers reported this morning the abduction in Abia State of prelates of the Methodist Church and some other clerics traveling. How do you see happenings in the Southeast? In one time, they go as if they are lulling, and then they spring up again. What do you? Yeah, well, you see now you don't. Some of the elements, and then it's really heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, and then you can see that no one is spared. It's just like what is happening had happened in the Northeast, and this is why some people are blaming the elite of that region. That look, you've unleashed a monster. You think you are actually undermining federal authority, but you're not. Because like Boko Haram, the Northeast elite, especially Borno, who kept mute at the incipience of Boko Haram, at the dawn of Boko Haram, they paid dearly for it. And this is exactly what's happening. You see, and also tells you that those on the pulpit, some of them breeding hate, and I'm saying across religion, not just one religion, operating from the pulpit, spreading hate. This element, this
genie that is being uncocked is mindless of your campaign of hate, if you like, because once you mount a pulpit and then you spew hate, someday it's coming to bite you in the butt, like what is happening now. I've not read the details of the story, I merely saw the headline. But if I'm trying to relate what has happened, it's not the first time clerics have been abducted and even killed in the Southeast. I remember very well, there was a governor when he's done his tenure, only one tenure. He had a running battle with some clerics. And then, you see, sometimes clerics, yes, you see, they should be concerned about principles enshrined in the holy books, not about individuals. Not about individuals, but you have instances where clerics are even specific. Suddenly, people pretending to be clerics, you understand? It's sad as they have become prophets predicting what is likely to happen. Most of them, if you like, doomsday sayers. And people predicting who is likely to be what.
Okay.
You understand? So, yes.
All right. Well, we will be wrapping up the newspaper review, right now. Thank you so much, Deputy President, Nigerian Guild of Editors,
Thank you
for joining us on the review. But you're not leaving yet. You'll also be joining us on, the discussion in the next hour. Do stick around. We'll be right back.
My pleasure.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
Daily, we bring you updates around politics.
People like you who are very young, you have no future. Anybody now who is 30 years, if what is happening to them continues, by the time you are 60, you will have no country.
The DPO of a particular unit does not have to wait until the commissioner tells him what to do within his jurisdiction.
We have political parties on the ground. Some of them have been there for years. But they themselves, in their own sober moments, they know that this country is not the one they're expecting to run.
Policy and governance.
Are you saying the NBS is lying?
I'm saying to you very clearly that the NBS has a serious problem with accurate data till today.
The 5th Assembly, as well as the 7th Assembly, their own attempts were unproductive.
Emergence of the Taliban has simply emboldened terror groups globally.
There's a lot of attention with regards to security developments in Nigeria.
On Daily Politics, we interrogate issues, holding the actors to account, bearing in mind all the sides.
We heard that in some places now, people have to go and pay tax, not to the local government, not to the state, but to criminals.
Nobody can come to your house and kidnap you without information.
If this country is bleeding, it is bleeding because we have failed to educate our young.
Good morning and welcome. Check your time. It is 8 a.m. It is Daybreak on Trust TV. I'm Darshan Husseina Usman. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, viewers. Thank you for staying with us. I am Abdulaziz. It is a beautiful morning in Abuja, and thank you for staying with us.
Today in the highlights, PDP cancels primaries in Ebonyi.
Ex-governor arrested over Accountant General's 80 billion naira probe.
Gunmen kill ex-NPC commissioner, abduct daughters.
The National Working Committee of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has approved the cancellation of all party primaries in Ebonyi State. This is contained in a statement issued by its National Publicity Secretary, Mustadebu Ologunaba, on Sunday in Abuja. The statement said that the new NWC made the cancellation after the extensive consultation, deliberations, and review of all issues. The party charges all aspirants, critical stakeholders, leaders, and members of the party in Ebonyi State to remain calm, united, and focused as it takes firm steps to rescue the nation.
The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has arrested former Governor Abdulaziz Iyari in connection with the agency's ongoing investigation of the suspended Accountant General of the Federation, Ahmed Idris. Mr. Iyari, a former governor of Zamfara State, was arrested on Sunday at his residence in Abuja days after he won the ruling APC's ticket for Zamfara West senatorial election holding next year. He won unopposed. The AGF under criminal investigation, Mr. Idris, has been in the AFCC custody since May 16, facing investigators over allegations of corruption to the tune of 80 billion naira. Investigators are working with the lead that he allegedly conspired with others to steal public funds, which by his role he was meant to safeguard.
Still ahead, government have killed a former commissioner of the National Population Commission, NPC, Zakari Umaru Kigbu, in Nasarawa State and abducted 2 of his daughters. And Daily Trust learned that the incident occurred in the early hours of Sunday at Umar Kigbu's residence in Azuba Bashai, Lafia local government area of Nasarawa State. Confirming the incident, the Nasarawa Police Public Relations Officer, ASP Ramhan Nansel, said the command got a distress call at 12:20 a.m. on Sunday. According to him, investigation is going on to ascertain the circumstances surrounding the incident. Nansel also confirmed that 2 of the deceased daughters were kidnapped. Until his mother, Umaru Kigbu, was a lecturer at the Department of Mass Communication, Isa Mustapha Agwai Polytechnic, Lafia. He was the former NPC Federal Commissioner covering Nasarawa State. With that, we come to the end of the news highlights this hour. We come back after a short breather.
Two political gladiators in Gombe State, Governor Inuwa Yahaya and Senator Danjuma Goje, have settled their political dispute which created division among members of the All Progressives Congress in the state. Senator Goje, who won APC ticket for the Gombe Central Senatorial District, said the reconciliation has come to stay. The report.
This is a historic moment for Governor Inuwa and his former boss, ex-Governor Danjuma Goje, as they come together after a dispute that lasted for almost a year. The political tension triggered resignation of Goje's daughter, who was appointed by Governor Yahaya as Environment Commissioner, but Senator Goje said they have now reconciled.
I also wish to particularly thank the leadership of our great party, the national leadership of our great party, the APC, under His Excellency, distinguished Senator Abdullahi Adamu Durakin Kefi. He has worked tirelessly with the governor to ensure that the APC Gombe State is fully reconciled. And I'm confirming to you that we are fully reconciled.
Governor Yahaya said he is very excited to reconnect with his former boss.
Ranar farin ciki, wannan tana ɗaya daga cikin ranakun da na fi farin ciki tun da Allah ya ɗora ni akan karagar mulki a jihar.
This is the most exciting day for me as the governor. In the past 3 days, no one think we will be together. Hypocrites have been fueling the crisis, but we thank Allah for making it possible to reconcile. Before this reconciliation between Governor Yahaya and Senator Goje, there were insinuations that Goje may defect to the People's Democratic Party (PDP), a report that he repeatedly denied. From Gombe, Ibrahim Ismail reporting for Trust TV.
The anti-vandal squad of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps River State Command has uncovered a residential building that doubles as a dump site for the storage of locally and illegally refined automotive gas oil. The discovery, according to the command, is part of the activities geared towards checkmating the excesses of oil thieves and bunkers in the state, as well as ensuring that critical national assets are safe from economic saboteurs. The report.
Addressing newsmen at the scene of the crime, the River State NSCDC Commandant Abu Tamwal, who was represented by the head of the Anti-Vandal Squad, Deputy Commandant Joachim Okafo, said the discovery followed sustained intelligence that a particular building along a notable university in Port Harcourt is being used as a loading point of illegally refined AGO. Okafo said the surveillance team of the Anti-Vandal Squad swung into action to effect the arrest of those carrying out the act, which amounts to economic sabotage.
I eventually ordered my men to advance into the compound and will later confirm that the compound is being used as a loading point of this illegally refined automotive gas oil, popularly known as AGO.
The Deputy Commandant said during the arrest, the team also identified a local jetty near the scene of the crime where illegally refined AGO is being loaded for onward transmission to would-be buyers.
A black Lexus 330 saloon car with number plate Bayasa GBB 52EA, a Toyota Avalon gold color with registration number Livers FH 730 PHC, laden with some cellophane bags of illegally refined AGO, a boat engine, and several bags of AGO stored in cellophane bags scattered within the premises, as you can see.
He said the command will approach the court with requisite jurisdiction to make necessary application for the forfeiture of the petroleum products, mode of conveyance, and the residential apartment, since it contravenes the provisions of the Miscellaneous Offences Act 2004 laws of the Federation.
Thank you for staying with us. It's been a Daybreak on Trust TV. The program continues after this short break.
Hello, welcome to Adam's Grill on Trust TV. I am Adam Mani Ngora, your host. In this program, we will be introducing you to a different style of cooking. We will now begin to prepare the rice on a finishing line. Here is an opportunity for you to watch, learn, and practice. If you don't make your food to be your medicine, then medicine will become your food.
Political maneuvering between Friday and Saturday night stopped what could have been an epic victory for Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike in the presidential primary of the People's Democratic Party for the 2023 general elections. A former Vice President, Atiku Abubakar, eventually won the contest with 371 votes from the 767 national delegates accredited for the poll. Mr. Wike polled 237 votes to place second, followed by Bukola Saraki with 70 votes, Udom Emmanuel with 38 votes, Bala Muhammad with 20 votes, Pius Anyim with 14 votes, and Sam Ohwabonwa with a lone vote. On Daybreak today, we look at the fallout of the PDP primaries elections that produced former Vice President Atiku Abubakar as the flag bearer for the 2023 elections. And we're being joined by a spokesperson of the Pan-Niger Delta Forum, that's PANDEF, Mr. Ken Robinson. Good morning and thank you for joining us on Daybreak today.
Thank you for this opportunity and good morning, Nigeria.
All right, we also have Ali M. Ali, who reviewed the dailies for us earlier, also joining us to take a look at the post-PDP primaries. Thank you so much for staying with us.
Thank you for having me again.
All right, but before we go into discussions, let's listen to the PDP candidate, Atiku Abubakar.
Let me also use this opportunity to call on my fellow contestants and to assure them that I am ready to cooperate and work with them and give them a sense of belonging in this party and our next government. Therefore, my fellow compatriots, I want to appreciate your efforts in deepening our democratic processes in this party. It was a well-fought primary elections. So I commend you for that, and I look forward to working with you very closely so that together we can build this party to a level where we can take over the government. As I said earlier on in my remarks, I want to appeal to all aggrieved members of our party that they should please return to our party, and we are willing, we are ready, the leadership of the party, our governors, and myself, to make sure that their grievances are resolved within the party. Let me also appeal to aggrieved party members. There are internal mechanisms to resolve all disputes in this party. Let us make use of those internal mechanisms to resolve our disputes in our party instead of going to various law courts and getting contradictory rulings and contradictory judgments.
That's been the PDP presidential candidate, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. As we said earlier, we'll be discussing the fallout of the PDP primaries. And with us in the studio is the PANDEP spokesperson, Mr. Ken Robinson, and the Deputy President of the Nigerian Guild of Editors, Ali M. Ali. And we'll be joined later by the spokesperson of Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, Mr. Paul Ibe. But before Mr. Ibe comes, Ali, as a journalist, yourself as a public affairs analyst, you've had Atiku Abubakar, and with the hindsight of what has happened leading up to his emergence as the candidate of the party, do you see his olive branch being accepted by other shades of opinion within the party to come for a collective journey?
Well, let's say he spoke like a leader, actually, after triumphing against all odds. The permutation before then was that perhaps it was going to be a very close call, except for a very, incurable optimism on his side. Nobody gave him, this much margin. People thought it was going to be a very close call. So yes, I think, yes, he said the right things, doing the right thing, made the offer for reconciliation. Now, he's extended his hand of, if you like, friendship. It's up to those who, he's thrown the gauntlet now. It's up to them to pick it. But if before the primaries, what we've seen happen, the tsunami of exit that hit the PDP, especially in the Southeast, and I think Atiku actually was making reference to those elements, especially in the Southeast, who exited the party, big names like Abaribe, like that is the Senate minority leader, like Ike Ikoromadu, who has been in the Senate for years, 20 years. So for these elements, they have their supporters, they have their support base. And I think he's made that right. But then some of them, I don't know, I've not heard where they pitched their tent. So between now and the time perhaps he'll name a running mate, or the party would suggest a running mate, I think a lot of giving his legendary ability to trade horses, horse trading. Atiku has come across as a master in horse trading. Notwithstanding, also, sometimes he plays the politics of convenience. He's navigated different political platforms to achieve his aspiration as the nation's #1 citizen. And that's why his critics, his most ardent critics, point at that. Even part of the campaign strategy used by his traducer was that he has not been loyal to the PDP, and now he's coming to claim the biggest pie on the table of the PDP, which is, to me, I think, if the argument, because in politics, the moral argument, sometimes like some of this element put forward, cannot stand, it hardly stands, especially in this part of the world, where the parties, especially in Nigeria, are not driven by any ideological standpoint. They are mostly contraption to access an annexed state power. They are not, if you look at the PDP and the APC, they are, well, different sides of the same coin. People make this allusion that some of those calling the shots in both parties were actually in the former parties and held visible position in the former parties they are. Abdullahi Adamu was a PDP member. Ayu was an AMPP member. So people make that allusion. So, but I see with that, Atiku has extended the olive branch, like you said. He's thrown the gauntlet now. It's for those to pick it. And it's important for even optics now to be seen that he's walking the talk. In some quarters is that Atiku has this aura of someone who is highly forgiving. He is not given to, but you see, this is the time he needs people. He needs people that are helping to actualize his dream. Just like, I don't know what magic they pull when some elements, withdrew and then also supported him against all non-permutations.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, now let's hear from Mr. Robinson. What's your reaction to Atiku winning the PDP ticket?
For us, Pandef, South, and together with the Southern and Middle Belt Leaders Forum, our position remains that this is unfair, and these are disturbing times for us in Nigeria. And our premise is not based on any personal thing against Atiku Abubakar as a person. Let me recall that in 2018, Pandef declared support for Atiku Abubakar, and we actually campaigned for him and mobilized for him, together with Afeni Ferrao and Ezindigbo and the Middle Belt Forum. We did that in 2018. But on principle, we felt that after 8 years of a Northern presidency under Muhammadu Buhari, it was fair and proper that power should rotate to Southern Nigeria, based on the principle of rotation that has been established in our political system over the years since 1979. And so what has happened, what the PDP has done is an affront on the people of Southern Nigeria. That's how we see it. But beyond that, we think that it was a predetermined outcome. It was programmed that Atiku would win, and we knew that long ago, as far back as November last year. And that's why we insisted on zoning. And in fact, it was the reason why the PDP jettisoned its principle of zoning and decided to leave the presidential ticket open for every Nigerian, because they knew and they wanted Atiku Abubakar to be their presidential candidate for reasons that are untenable. It is not that it's only Atiku Abubakar or a Northern candidate that can give the PDP victory in the 2023 elections. That assumption is completely not true. Southerners had won elections for the PDP before now. Obasanjo is not from the North. Goodluck Jonathan is not from the North. So the assumption and reflections and thoughts that it's only a Northerner that can win an election for PDP in 2023 is completely untrue. It's unfair to the people of Southern Nigeria, and we are rejecting the candidacy of Atiku Abubakar. And we are going to mobilize our people. Now, going forward...
Well, Mr. Robinson, sorry, just before you go forward, people say that this is democracy in which it is a game of numbers, that your people ought to, maybe the people from the South, or the Southern Nigeria generally, should put forward their own candidate and campaign and marshal their own campaigns instead of, as some critics of your own standpoint see it as maybe blackmailing the other parts of the country into submitting to your own.
This is not blackmail. This is reality. This is saying, look, we are one people. This country belongs to all of us. We all have stakes in this country. We have all, as a people, as Nigerians, built these two major political parties with our resources from all the states. APC, PDP were built by Nigerians, not just a section of Nigeria. And the composition of the parties reflects that national outlook, that these are Nigerian parties. It is difficult for a people to, within 1 year or thereabout, develop a force and structural mechanism to be able to beat these two parties. That's reality. And because we have together built these two parties to what they are today, it is just fair that after 8 years of a Northern presidency under President Muhammadu Buhari, the next president of Nigeria should come from Southern Nigeria. And so it is insensitive to think that, that's okay, let's throw it open, and you people can go and also present your candidate, and politics is a game of numbers. When we reduce governance and politics to just numbers, we are turning this country to an animal kingdom where might rules. And so I will be left to do what I think I can also do. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not about numbers alone. It's about understanding. It's about mutual respect. It's about give and take. We supported Muhammadu Buhari. Southerners supported Muhammadu Buhari against a Southerner to become president of Nigeria in 2015. In 2019, some of us supported Atiku Abubakar. Some Southerners again supported Muhammadu Buhari to become president for the second term. And after 8 years, it's proper as a country. If we love peace, unity, if we want the progress of Nigeria, it is proper that we support the emergence of someone from southern Nigeria as the next president of Nigeria. And we would await the outcome of the APC presidential elections to see who they will present to the country as their own presidential candidate. Let me recall, very importantly, that in 2007, there were attempts by some Southerners to succeed President Olusegun Obasanjo. And some of us, including the national leader of PANDEF, Chief Edwin Clark, supported, worked with the late Bukola Saraki's father to ensure that its power returned to the North. And we expected the elite, the political elite, and even cultural and traditional rulers from northern Nigeria to show that goodwill back to southern Nigeria. And we cannot welcome another northern president for another 8 years after Muhammadu Buhari. It's unacceptable. And I'm conscious of the fact that I'm on national television, and so I'll be mindful and measure my words. But the truth is that people are happy, and this is a very disturbing time for people of southern Nigeria.
Okay, now we have joining us finally. Okay, all right. So just before we move into that, let me forward the next question to Mr. Ali. Yeah. Now, what factors would you actually say worked in favor of Atiku Abubakar? Because a lot of people are actually saying that the geopolitical distribution of delegates, that being more from the northern part, in a way affected the primaries.
Well, the factors from the time, like he said, in a way, inadvertently, he said the PDP primaries were primed to produce Atiku, were programmed. On the surface of it, it looks like so, because when the PDP threw open the contest, you will say, okay, yes, clearly, it gave us an idea that Atiku was perhaps the man primed to take the nomination. But beyond that, also, you see, the PDP is caught in its own contradiction. What I mean, when it's the only party, when people try to extend the zoning arrangement of the PDP to other political parties, especially APC, actually there is nowhere in its constitution where it's enshrined that there will be power rotation. Perhaps the guys at the very top have an understanding, a gentleman's understanding, which is not written. But in the PDP, it's clearly written, which has been contested. Now, look at how the PDP was caught in its own contradiction, and that ultimately worked in favor of Atiku as to emerge as a presidential flag bearer. Notwithstanding, like my colleague here pointed out, and I have argued in the past, in the course of the newspaper review, that look, for national cohesion, Atiku should look in the southeast for a running mate. You understand? But you also look at numbers. You're talking about numbers. In politics, like I said, these are some of the factors, like you rightly pointed out, about the delegates. And then even the competitors of Atiku, they forgot maybe one other thing. They don't work, they work very hard, engaging delegates, going, meeting them one-on-one. But you see, the masterstroke that happened there, what couldn't be achieved is how somehow some of the contesting with Atiku from the region stepped down at the 11th hour. One of which that changed the permutation is Aminu Waziri Tambuwal. People had thought Tambuwal was going to go the whole hog. Then he made a dramatic at the 11th hour, and that tilted in favor. And then look at it, we're talking of numbers. If you really want to win, you look at numbers. You look at numbers. Atiku, if you like, has navigated the national political environment, terrain. For years, he has been a consistent presidential for plus minus 30 years plus. So these are some of the factors that work in his favor. First, when the contest was thrown open, clearly you can see that the PDP apparatchik was capitulated against all. If it had zoned it to the south, and then some people even in the south, I say it should be micro-zoned
to the southeast.
To the southeast. You understand? So
I will come back to you, but Mr. Robinson, some people point to the fact that even the South, then the candidates, or aspirants on the ballot on that day, did not receive much support from their delegates to point it as a pointer that maybe the Southeast or even the Southern Nigeria in general is not serious about this agitation for a Southern presidency. Because if you put the numbers, the votes, garnered by maybe the key Southern leaders, it shows that maybe a number of Southern delegates actually voted for candidates from outside the region. And I remember, just before you, to link this up, that the former chair, or the president of Mosob, Chief Wazirike, had recently come out to say that the Igbos aspiring for presidency were actually not serious, according to him, that they were actually looking for second fiddle as running mates. Doesn't these two scenarios now point to this issue?
I will respond to that by saying that the context was ab initio rigged. The playing field was skewed against Southern Nigeria. For instance, Northwest alone has 193 delegates because it was one delegate per local government area. Northwest alone had 193 delegates. If you combine the Southeast delegates that are 100 and South-South delegates that are 126, that's just two zones slightly above a single zone. And so those are some of the imbalances in Nigeria that we're asking that should be corrected. That's why we're asking for restructuring. Nigeria cannot be a fair and equitable society until some of these skewed and lopsided issues embedded in our constitution are corrected. In the first place, the idea of local government area is an aberration in a federation. Local government areas have no place in our constitution. They should not be mentioned. In the federation, there are two tiers, the federal and the states. And so that some persons from southern Nigeria, for very egoistic reasons, and you will always find people like that. There is no time in history that a people, 100% of the people, have supported an idea. And so for some persons, it's about personal interest, is what they will get, and they have elevated personal interest above shared goals. And so we understand the likes of the MASOP leader and even some other elements. We have several people like that in the South, particularly South-South, and even in the Southwest and the Southeast, who are agents and supporters of a northern candidate. But the general feeling in southern Nigeria is that these are not good times for this country, and we fear the consequences that shall arise.
Okay, Mr. Lee, now Peter Obi was a strong contender, in the PDP, just before he, withdrew and resigned from the party. Now that he's with the Labour Party, do you think he stands a chance?
Stands to be the flag bearer or to be the president?
Be the president, flag bearer and president.
Well, he may be the flag bearer, but I don't see him making any inroads. Even if he had remained in the PDP, it would have been a very tough call for him because the dynamics have changed, even in the PDP. If he had remained in the PDP, yes, on paper, I'm in love with Peter Obi. He sounds very good on paper. And then listening to him talk with specific ideas how to turn the economy, and then his personal enterprise, and if you like, personal discipline, which some Nigerians, he has repeatedly, demonstrated to Nigerians that he's a man of enormous personal discipline, which has metamorphosed into his personal industry, personal enterprise. But I don't see him making that, because you see, politics is about numbers. It's about numbers. He's the man, where I come from, we have this saying that the man who owns the pond actually owns the fishes. So if you have the number, you bandy it, and then you go home. You are home and dry. But yes, if Peter Obi is unfortunately, it's heart-wrenching, because I like Peter Obi On paper, he has clear ideas of all this jostling to be president of Nigeria. He's the one with clear ideas how to go about turning the economy. But you see, it's one thing to say it and it's another thing to walk that talk. We've seen people who have came short when the APC, I always make this reference, the APC in 2014 actually bamboozled Nigerians. That what Nigerians needed to defeat insurgency, rising economic hyperinflation, increasing devaluation of the nation's currency was a war-tested general and a man from the clergy, from the pulpit, a prayerful warrior, if you like, an alpha of sort. So we have a general, a professor of law, and a clergy. This combination would defeat insurgency and then would give us some kind of spiritual armor to face Nigeria. But look at us, 7 years down the road, we're still talking about the same thing and with no sign of. So Peter Obi exit to Labour Party. Well, it's political hierarchy, if you like. And if he had remained in the PDP, he would have remained a force in a way. But even at that, I don't see him pulling any large numbers. I don't see him making any inroads. Even until he moved to the PDP as in ABGA. What was his impact?
We are joined now by the in the studio by the spokesperson of Mr. Atiku Abubakar, Mr. Paul Ibe. Thank you very much for joining us and good morning. Let me quickly throw this first question at you. Your principal has just been declared as the winner of the election for the, to fly the flag of the PDP in the next general election. But this comes against a serious tide, especially from some elements from southern Nigeria who feel that this should be zoned, the presidency should be zoned by the PDP to them. How do you react to these talks that this is against the principle of zoning in the PDP, and how is Atiku Abubakar going to weather the storms, especially with organizations like the Southern Middle Belt Forum publicly coming out to reject his aspiration?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Well, this is not really about Atiku Abubakar. Make no mistake about it. He has accepted the responsibility, with humility, and there is work, ahead of us. Thank God, the party, PDP has dodged the bullet and been able to conduct a free, fair, and credible election. With all political process and all of that, and there will be winners and losers. But in this particular instance, there are no losers. Democracy, the PDP, and by extension, the larger Nigeria are the winners in this process. We need to ask ourselves a question: what actually do we want as a people and as a nation? Nigeria is at crossroads. Insecurity is rife. There is no economy, it's been obliterated. Lives are not safe. The value of human life practically non-existent. I think there is a unanimity among Nigerians that we desire leadership, that will take us out of this Egypt that we've been in the last 7 years. And in doing that, a process is in place. Parties are organized to wrestle power. Parties set their own internal rules. They are not cast in stone. I think what has counted for Atiku Abubakar at this historic time is the fact that the PDP as a party is tired of being in opposition. They want to win an election. If you don't win an election, there is nothing to share. And so it has become imperative that the party looks at, the prospect of a candidate who will be able to win that election. And I think that was what the delegates, did, over the weekend. Forget all the drama about those who stepped down. Let us also not forget that a certain gentleman, Anekwe Aneze, stepped down for a weekend, and that didn't make the headlines. But the one that made the headlines was Aminu Tambuwal, perhaps because he's a governor, so to speak.
So, but how do you weather the storms, as I asked earlier, especially with the Southern Middle Belt Forum clearly coming out to lampoon the PDP and also your own principle that this is an injustice against the Southern Nigeria?
You see, having won, the PDP ticket, the Atiku's constituency has now grown beyond the party. His constituency is now Nigeria. In the last 2 months or thereabouts, he had engaged the delegates of the party, the stakeholders, and he's been handed the ticket. So he now has a responsibility to bring everybody on board. Naturally, emotions, and there are emotions, and people will feel, they've been handed the short end of the stick. But he has a responsibility to bring everybody together. And the same message that he had been able to put across delegates that resonated and had led to his victory, the same message that he has going to, he will continue to advance to the larger Nigeria. And it's about, what he has called the unity seat, of security, of economy, of education, as a game changer, in development, in security, about devolution of power, which, the gentleman has spoken about. It is important, and this is a man, we know his antecedents. He said over and over again that this structure is not working for us, and we have to do something about that. And I think in the last 7 years, we have seen a government that is, not inclusive. People have been shut out. That has powered the state of insecurity and the separatist agenda that we're seeing all over the place. And we now have a gentleman, we know his antecedents, we know where he's coming from, we know him as a unifier, somebody who has the capacity to bring people together. I think it behoves us to be able to rally around this person and see how we can be able to turn around the economy, bring people on board, give people an opportunity. No one should be a second-class citizen in a nation that we all call Nigeria, we're all states.
All right, Mr. Robinson, let's hear your reactions as to what Mr. Paul has actually said.
I think that Mr. Paul has spoken very well. And let me restate what I said earlier, that we do not have anything personal against Atiku Abubakar as a person. It is on principle that we're saying we're rejecting his candidacy. Now, we will, as a people, I mentioned, await what the other major party will present to Nigeria as a presidential candidate. After that, we will sit down and make decisions. But for now, our position is that what has happened, what the PDP has done is unfair, is an affront against the people of southern Nigeria. In the interest of oneness, he agreed that Nigeria's structure is not working. We have used this structure for the past 60 years plus. And look at where we are today. It's never been this bad in terms of the insecurity, in terms of the divisions, in terms of the economy. People are suffering. The other day I was told NNPC has not been able to remit any money to the Federation account for about 2 months or so. It is that bad. And we need someone that will come and be a president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, a person that will see Nigeria as his entire constituency. Listen, sir, a person that will not tolerate some persons because they are from his ethnic nationality, even when they are doing things that should not be accepted. And then we allow situations to degenerate to where they are. And the truth of the matter is that they say blood is thicker than water. And Mr. Atiku Abubakar himself recently demonstrated some traits of that kind of character. And we are not comfortable with another Northerner ruling after 8 years of a Northern presidency. That's the baseline. And so Nigerians, as we did for the North in 2007, as we did in 2015, as we did in 2019, should at this time pay back and respond and show that same goodwill to the rest of Nigeria, that we are one people, that we are one country, and that this Nigeria belongs to everyone.
I'm sorry, there are agitations right now among a section of the ruling APC to also field a northern candidate as a way of checkmating Atiku, who they see as maybe pulling votes from the north? Because, you know, as Mr. Ali has earlier said, this is largely about the politicians really calculate the numbers. Now, including these agitations have been spearheaded by people including former Governor Orji Uzor Kalu, who is an Igbo man, and only 2 days ago I saw former Minister Femi Fani-Kayode also reinforcing that with the emergence of Atiku, that APC should have no option but to field a northerner. So in the event APC field another northerner, how do you, reconcile, how do you maybe paddle the waters ahead of the election?
I will answer straight to that. We have developed 3 scenarios. Okay. First scenario was that, and that was a perfect scenario, the 2 major political parties present 2 southern presidential candidates. Second scenario, one of the parties will present a northern candidate, another will present a southern candidate. And then the third scenario, which is the worst scenario, is that the 2 parties will present northern candidates. And we evaluated and felt that the first scenario was unlikely. The second scenario and the third scenario are the likely scenarios that will happen. And we have also projected appropriate actions for each of these scenarios. If the worst happens, that is APC and PDP presents northern candidates, then we will ask ourselves whether Nigeria will still exist.
Well, that's a very tough one, and I don't want us to go to that, especially that we are on a live television. But let me go back to, Usain, do you have a question for Mr. Ali?
Yes, well, my question for Mr. Ali right now is, do you predict a seamless outcome, with the APC, considering, the number of contestants, not talking about, the presidential primaries, with the number of contestants, in the party?
I don't see a seamless selection process. APC, in a way, is reflective of PDP when it held sway at the center. What I mean at the center, when it controlled federal power. But then you see APC, unlike PDP, its conflict resolution mechanism is a bit frail. Under PDP, especially under Obasanjo, Obasanjo was that forceful enough to say, look, this is my candidate. It was at the 11th hour, he pulled literally a rabbit from his magic hat and hoisted Yar'Adua in 2007. And Yar'Adua was sickly. He was known to be battling with, ailment. This much was captured in the book written by El-Rufai, Accidental Public Servant, that it was Obasanjo's game plan to have a third term via a sickly Yar'Adua. But the rest, like they say, is history. Now, I don't see that APC is bound to implode unless the dominant force there is given a chance, just like Atiku was given the chance to be the flag bearer, unless the dominant force there happens. Already there are scenarios now, and one of the scenarios, eventually my colleague here, in the course of this panelist, had listed the likelihood of the 2 major parties fielding northern aspirants. But don't forget, already there is already a presidential candidate, a dark horse, so to say. Rabi Musa Konkoso is there already as the presidential flag bearer of the NNPP. He may not have a national appeal, but in his constituency, you can see that he's growing every day. But whether that would translate into presidential votes nationwide when he faces the electorate eventually. Now, I see an imminent implosion in the APC. And some of the smart ones among them, they have option B, possibly C. Now, what I foresee is that there may not be a clear winner in the first ballot. And it's in the second ballot. Now, perhaps there will be a lot of horse trading. Look at what happened.
It would be the PDP.
Yes, precisely. So, yes, and the Nigerian structure, people when they say, and Atiku, thankfully, in a way, he has said he has clear ideas of what to do about restructuring. But the APC actually promised to restructure. In fact, set up a committee to restructure. What happened?
Okay, thank you very much. Because we are running short of time, I will stop you there and quickly go back to Mr. Paul Ibe. Paul, you know, Atiku is the last election, especially 2019, that he was on the ballot. He harvested a lot of votes from the southern part of the country. Now, with this sort of backlash to his declaration as the PDP candidate from the southern Nigeria, wouldn't this affect his chances? And how are you going to ameliorate the situation going into the election? If you can respond to this quickly.
You know, one of the reasons why the PDP delegate settled for Atiku, they see him as somebody who has the capacity to bring people around the table. And it is very important, you know, that his skills will be tested at this point in time. And since his desires of presenting our affairs at this crossroads that we are in, the first challenge we're going to have is to be able to convince, Nigerian voters, to see the viability, of his candidacy. And I don't think, that would be a challenge. I think when the frayed nerves, when the emotions and all of that, people would, put across a very strong message of why, he remains the most viable candidate at this particular point in time when Nigeria is at crossroads. Like I said, insecurity, no economy, life is worthless. The question is for all of us who go to the market, I do. The price inflation is killing. And what do we want? What do we want as a people? Who are we looking up to be able to address all of these challenges confronting us? And I think he would engage. He would dialogue, with the various, stakeholders, from the Middle Belt, from Pandef, from, the Southeast. These are people that he had worked with, before. And they've also bought into his idea, to restructure Nigeria, to devolve powers to the local governments and the state governments, so that people at the micro levels can be able to take their destiny in their hands and, desire what kind of things should be their priority.
All right, sadly, we have to wrap up the show here. But thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. First of all, spokesperson of Pandef, Mr. Ken Robinson, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence.
And we appreciate it.
All right, and also media aide to Atiku Abubakar, Mr. Paul Ibe, thank you so much for, gracing us with your presence and sharing your thoughts on, this topic as well.
Thank you for having me.
And Mr. Ali M. Ali, thank you so much for sharing with us and and being with us up until this time.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
All right, with this we'll wrap up the morning show talking about a daybreak on Trust TV. I'm Dasha and Husseina Usman. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you very much for being with us. I'm Abdulaziz Abdulaziz. Tomorrow, the same time on the same channel.